There's a certain kind of person who never raises their voice, even when everything seems to be falling apart. They don't argue. They don't panic. They don't rush to prove they're right. They just breathe. And while everyone else is lost in the chaos, they simply watch. It's as if they've already weathered this storm before. You've likely met someone like that, someone wrapped in a kind of silence that feels unbreakable. No matter what happens, they remain steady, grounded, untouchable. And if you've ever wondered how some people stay so calm while others unravel, the answer runs much deeper than you might imagine. True calm isn't the absence of emotion. It's what happens when emotion meets understanding. It's not that these people don't feel. They do. They've just learned not to react the same way. After you've seen enough, hurt enough, and realized that panic solves nothing, you stop fighting storms you can't control. You learn to stand still in the rain. That's the psychology of calm people. They weren't born this way. They became this way. People who were always calm often went through phases where they weren't. They used to overthink. They cared too much. They tried to control everything, fix everything, please everyone. And each time they tried, they learned the same lesson. Life doesn't bend to your will, no matter how hard you push. Eventually, they stopped trying to control the ocean. Instead, they learned to surf. That's what calm really is, not indifference, but emotional wisdom. Psychologists call it emotional regulation, but that term doesn't quite capture its soul. It's not about suppressing emotions or pretending everything's fine. It's about understanding emotions so deeply that it no longer controls you. Calm people aren't emotionless. They're emotionally fluent. They've learned the language of their own mind. They can feel anger without exploding, sadness without drowning, uncertainty without losing balance. Because deep inside, there's a small voice that whispers, "This too will pass." And that voice isn't blind optimism, it's memory. They've lived enough to know that even the worst moments fade, that panic doesn't speed up healing, and that peace isn't found in control, but in acceptance. Most people misunderstand calm people. They mistake calm for coldness. But in truth, calm often means compassion. Calm people are the ones who hold space for others when everyone else is panicking. They're the ones who can say, "It's okay," and mean it not because they don't care, but because they know chaos isn't permanent. There's a quiet strength in that. It's the strength of restraint, of knowing that not every battle deserves your energy, not every insult deserves a reply, and not every storm deserves fear. It's the strength of choosing peace, even when your instincts want to fight. But let's go deeper. Why do some people reach this state while others remain constantly overwhelmed? The answer lies in a part of the brain called the amygdala, the center of fear and emotional response. In people who've practiced mindfulness or endured emotionally intense experiences, the amygdala becomes more balanced. It still signals danger, but it no longer hijacks their entire system. Their prefrontal cortex, the rational thinking part of the brain, learns to step in before emotion takes over. In other words, calm people have trained their minds to pause between feeling and reacting. That pause is their superpower. It's why, in an argument, they can hear something hurtful and not immediately strike back. It's why they can sit in uncertainty without needing to fill the silence. It's why, when the world is loud, they can still hear themselves think. That pause, that moment of stillness, is where wisdom lives. But here's what's fascinating. Calm people often weren't taught this through books or therapy. Many learned it the hard way, through heartbreak, disappointment, and realizing that quick reactions often made things worse. At some point, they grew tired of their own chaos. Tired of overreacting, regretting, apologizing, explaining. They reached a point where peace became more important than being right. So now, when tension rises, they choose silence over shouting. They choose to breathe instead of blame. They choose to let go instead of holding grudges that burn from the inside. And yet, that calmness isn't always easy, because sometimes calm people carry storms inside that no one sees. They look peaceful, but their calm is hard-earned, forged in pain, not perfection. They've cried in private, questioned their worth, felt unseen and misunderstood. And through it all, they discovered that peace isn't a reward for an easy life, it's a discipline you build. When you realize emotional chaos no longer serves you, that's why people who are always calm tend to think differently. They're not driven by impulse, they're guided by perspective. They don't chase validation, they chase meaning. They don't need to prove they're right, they'd rather understand. Because deep down, they've realized something most people don't. Reacting to everything makes you a prisoner of everything. The calmer you are, the freer you become. In psychology, there's something called response flexibility, the ability to choose your response rather than let it choose you. That's what calm people master. They don't suppress emotion, they channel it. They let energy move through them without letting it destroy them. That's why they often seem so composed during a crisis, but break down quietly afterward. Not because they're pretending, but because they understand timing. They know there's a time to feel and a time to act, a time to process and a time to release. Their calmness isn't a mask, it's an internal compass that keeps them aligned, no matter how strong the winds blow. And if you look closer, you'll notice something else. Calm people don't just react differently, they see differently. While most people see chaos, they see patterns. While most see problems, they see lessons. While most see endings, they see beginnings disguised as change. They've trained their perception to zoom out, to see the bigger picture, instead of getting lost in the moment. That's what gives them balance. That's why they can lose something and still say, maybe this was meant to happen. It's not denial, it's perspective born from experience. The calm person sitting quietly in the corner has likely lived through things that once broke them. They've just learned not to live inside that break anymore. They've realized that when you stop trying to control the uncontrollable, you create space. And that space is where peace begins. Think about that the next time you see someone who never seems rattled. They're not detached from life, they're anchored deeper in it. They've stopped being tossed around by every wave because they've become the ocean itself. Their calmness is not apathy, it's understanding. The understanding that not every emotion deserves expression, not every thought deserves attention, and not every situation deserves energy, because energy to them is sacred. They spend it wisely on things that build, not break. They've seen how easily chaos can drain a person, how drama can destroy peace, how small reactions can grow into regrets. So they choose differently now. When someone insults them, they pause. When someone misunderstands them, they explain if it's worth it and walk away if it's not. When life gets heavy, they don't collapse. They lean on faith, on time, on perspective. And that's what makes calm people magnetic. It's not that they have all the answers, it's that they don't need to anymore. They've made peace with uncertainty. And in a world obsessed with control, that peace is power. Because while most people are fighting battles in their minds, replaying, overthinking, regretting, calm people know that silence can say more than words ever could. That not every emotion deserves a witness. And that sometimes the greatest strength is simply not reacting. But there's another layer to this psychology, something few people talk about. Calmness can also be a form of self-protection. A defense mechanism, yes, but a gentle one. For many, calmness isn't something they chose, it's something they had to build to survive. They learned early that reacting loudly didn't change outcomes, that staying composed was safer, that guarding emotions kept them from being misunderstood or hurt. So calmness became their armor. Their quiet became their shield. But here's the beauty. Even if it began as protection, it evolved into power. Over time, that restraint turned into awareness. That emotional distance turned into depth. And that quiet strength became the foundation of their peace. That's why calm people are often the most self-aware. They understand their triggers. They recognize their patterns. They don't need constant noise to feel alive. They find comfort in stillness because stillness isn't emptiness. It's clarity. It's the sound of someone who's finally stopped running from themselves. The calm ones often make the world feel a little slower, a little safer, just by being in it. They don't walk into a room demanding attention. They don't raise their energy to match the noise. Instead, they lower the noise by being themselves. You can almost feel it, that quiet confidence that doesn't need to be proven. There's something magnetic about people who stay calm in a world addicted to reaction. It's not because they're emotionless, it's because their emotions have matured. And maturity isn't about age, it's about understanding what truly deserves your peace. Calm people often know that arguing rarely changes anyone's mind, that rushing rarely speeds anything up, that worrying rarely prevents anything from happening. So they let go of what doesn't serve them, not because they don't care, but because they've finally learned the cost of caring about everything. The calm person has probably already lived through what you're panicking about. They've faced the heartbreak, the loss, the rejection, the fear. They've seen that life continues even after moments that once felt unbearable. And that realization becomes their peace. It's not that they expect life to be easy, they've just stopped expecting it to be fair. And that shift alone removes half of life's chaos. When something bad happens, most people spiral into why me? But the calm person thinks, why not me? Not out of defeat, but out of understanding that life happens to everyone. And resisting that truth only multiplies the suffering. They've discovered a truth hidden deep in human psychology. That pain without resistance is just sensation, but pain with resistance becomes suffering. So they stopped resisting what is. They've accepted the flow of life, not as passive observers, but as active participants who know when to move and when to wait. Because calmness isn't passivity, it's control in its highest form. The control of self. They've learned to separate the external world from their internal one. The world can be loud, unpredictable, even cruel, but their inner space, that's sacred. They don't allow every external event to dictate their internal state. That's why calm people often feel like they live in a different dimension, because they do. It's the space between stimulus and response that defines them. That tiny, invisible pause where they decide whether to feed chaos or peace. That pause is the mark of emotional intelligence. Because the truth is, calmness isn't found, it's created. Every calm person you meet is building it moment by moment. They've built it in long nights when their mind wouldn't stop racing, in mornings when they wanted to quit, in conversations where they chose silence over reaction. It's not easy, but it's intentional. They've trained themselves to be unshaken, not because life stopped testing them, but because they stopped failing the same emotional tests. If you ask a calm person what changed them, they'll probably tell you, I just got tired. Tired of overthinking, tired of defending, tired of being misunderstood, tired of giving energy to everything that didn't deserve it. So they started valuing peace like oxygen. It's a strange thing, the world celebrates loud success, but rarely honors quiet strength. Yet, it's the calm ones who carry the most wisdom. They're the ones who can sit in stillness long enough to actually hear what life is trying to say. They notice more than they speak. They see through the noise because silence sharpens perception. In that silence, they observe without judgment. And that's what allows them to understand people so deeply. If you think about it, calm people are emotional translators. They don't just hear words, they hear intention. They don't just see behavior, they see the wound behind it. They don't just react to energy, they absorb, decode and release it. That's why talking to them feels like therapy. You feel seen, not analyzed. Understood, not judged. Because they're not listening to respond, they're listening to understand. That kind of listening requires stillness. And stillness requires strength. Because it's hard to stay centered when others are spinning. It's hard to remain soft when the world keeps trying to harden you. But calm people do it anyway, not because it's easy, but because they know it's necessary. They've realized that peace is not the absence of problems, it's the ability to face problems without losing yourself. And that's what sets them apart. Most people look for peace in perfect conditions. Calm people create peace within imperfect ones. They don't wait for the storm to pass, they learn to find stillness inside it. You'll often find them with simple routines, because simplicity stabilizes the mind. A morning ritual, a quiet walk, a cup of tea, a few minutes of silence before sleep. These little habits aren't random, they're anchors. Psychologically, repetition builds a sense of control and predictability. And calm people protect that pattern because it keeps them grounded. They know that without small doses of stillness, the mind starts to spin stories. And the calmer the mind, the clearer those stories become. There's also something beautifully paradoxical about them. Calm people tend to be some of the most emotional souls. Yet, they're the least reactive, because they've learned that expression doesn't always require eruption. Sometimes you express emotion by holding it gently until it dissolves. This doesn't mean they don't feel intensity, they just express it differently. Their sadness turns into reflection. Their anger turns into clarity. Their fear turns into faith. That alchemy, the ability to transform emotion into awareness, is the core of calmness. It's what separates emotional maturity from emotional chaos. But here's something even deeper. Calmness doesn't only change how you feel, it changes how people treat you. When you stay calm, you become harder to manipulate. You become unpredictable to those who rely on emotional reactions. And that, in turn, protects your energy, because nothing confuses chaos more than someone who doesn't join it. It's a quiet rebellion. When everyone else is racing to respond, the calm person waits. And in that wait, they gain perspective that others miss. They see motives, patterns, dynamics that only reveal themselves in stillness. They don't rush to conclusions because they've learned that truth always unfolds. It doesn't need to be forced. That's why calm people rarely regret their decisions. They give life enough time to show them what's real. And maybe that's the most profound part. Calm people don't just manage emotion, they respect time. They understand that time reveals what emotion hides. That patience isn't inaction, it's wisdom disguised as delay. So while others chase quick closure, calm people allow things to breathe. Because they know that rushing understanding is the fastest way to misunderstand. If you ask them how they stay so calm, they'll smile and say something like, "I just stopped fighting everything." But what they really mean is, they stopped fighting life. They stopped trying to win every argument, control every outcome, rewrite every past, and predict every future. They started trusting themselves enough to let things unfold. Trust, that's the secret ingredient in calmness. It's not about knowing what will happen. It's about believing that whatever happens, you'll handle it. And that belief doesn't come from ego, it comes from experience. From surviving enough storms to know you'll survive the next one too. That's why calm people often radiate quiet confidence. Not loud, showy confidence, but the kind that feels like gravity. It's not in their words, it's in their presence. You just feel safe around them because their energy tells you it's okay. We don't have to rush. We don't have to fight. We can just be. And maybe that's what the world needs more of. People who don't add to the noise. People who can pause before reacting, breathe before speaking, and listen before judging. Imagine if everyone learned to do that just for a day. The world would sound a lot quieter. And maybe, just maybe, that silence would heal more than words ever could. But let's be real, staying calm isn't easy. Even the calmest people lose their balance. Sometimes they get angry, they break down, they feel doubt. But the difference is, they know how to return to stillness. They don't stay lost in emotion. They observe it, understand it, and let it pass. That's the cycle. Awareness, acceptance, release. Because true calm isn't about never being shaken, it's about always finding your way back. The calm ones know that emotions are waves, not walls. You can't stop,